Well, happy modeling and welcome to March. And here we are in the same place we were last month, but things have changed here just a bit. To kind of give you an idea of what's gone on in the last month. So we've had 2 work sessions that just basically me and Sean were available. And so we laid a lot of the track here, which during that time frame, Sean and me made a really important decision. To kind of give you an idea of the scope of this project, I kind of just went through counting the number of tracks that I have, 3-foot sections of flex track I have left, and then based on the number of boxes of flex track I have bought, Sean and me have roughly laid about 500 feet of track in the last 13 months. I have built 78 turnouts, of which 75 of them are wired and ready to go. Either just need to be connected to a bus line or a frog juicer and have a servo installed. But nonetheless, there are 75 turnouts that have been built and installed. And Sean and me need a break. And so the decision was made that we're going to take this peninsula here. This is the Longmont side here, and Longmont, and on the other side is the single track that runs from Loveland up here. And we're going to finish scenicking this peninsula entirely, and then we'll pick up from there. And we have a lot of things that we're going to be doing. For one, I'll be planning the operations for this scene right here and down there. We're not completely not laying track because, as you can see over here by the warehouse and the coal areas, the track is not down completely. It's just in its place where it needs to go, based on my mock-ups of my sugar mill here. So that is the decision we made based on where we're at, and we need a break, and we would like to do some modeling, so some modeling we're going to do. But that does lead us to where we're at right now. Now, as much as I have been reluctant to do a wiring video because, quite frankly, watching me solder 2 wires together is incredibly boring. I know, because as the person who's soldering the 2 wires together, believe it or not, I'm bored. I know, that's hard to believe. But I do want to talk a little bit about wiring, in particular on this portion of the layout. So I'm going to talk about color coding, but the color coding is not really important as much as the fact that how we've done the wiring and explaining then why we did it. So this right here is the main line coming through here. This is the siding for the main line. So all of this main line and these 3 turnouts that are on the main line are all wired in a separate circuit breaker from the same booster, but a separate circuit breaker, so that if a short occurs on the main line, it does not affect anything in the town of Longmont at all. So the color coding for this is purple and white here for the main line, and the frogs are orange. That way, when I'm working down below, I've got an orange wire, or I've got a purple and white wire. I know that this is the main line, and I know what circuit breaker it goes to. Additionally, if a circuit trips in JMRI, for instance, this particular circuit here is 2-4. This is the 2nd power district. The 4th circuit breaker is the main line. And I have a list that breaks all the 3 power districts up, and I can tell you which circuit breaker is tripped and where it belongs to. And we can go right to that area. And then with the color coding of the wires, I can immediately look underneath there and say, okay, this should be a purple and white wire or a orange wire for the frog. Now, reversely here, this is in a separate circuit itself. The color coding for this is green and white is the main line, or the main tracks in here, and the frogs are green and white, and the frogs are red. I'm sorry, are red. I had to check for a second. I wanted to make sure I had that right, but it didn't matter. I could look underneath and I could see it right away. And this is in another circuit breaker. This one would be 2-3. This is the second power district, the third circuit breaker, and that's how I would then identify it. So while I'm not going to show you wiring, I am going to explain the advantages of this, because yards have a tendency to have shorts more often because of the fact that locomotives and things are passing over turnouts. And let's be fair, if you're going to have a car come off the track, it's going to be probably because of a turnout. The main line has 3 turnouts. Longmont has 12 turnouts. Short's going to happen more likely here. But I don't want the main line being shorted out. So by breaking these down into two different circuit breakers, I can eliminate that. So that's just a little tip on electrical and doing what we want to do. So what did we do that was different this from last month? As I said, Sean and me have been here for a total of 8 hours in the last 4 weeks. And some of the things that we had to do so that we could actually finish this area up was I had to build these mock-ups because we had to decide where the tracks were going to go here in the sugar mill. Now, this is all going to be a building from scratch. Now, if I were to build it to scale, the actual sugar mill, the main building and the warehouse that you see here on the end, that would be a little over 6.5 feet long. And the give me a second, I'll come up with the name here in a minute. The boiler house, the boiler house would be about 5 feet long, and its associated buildings. And then one of the other buildings that would have been on here is the pulp warehouse, which they would have taken the sugar beet pulp and mixed it with molasses, and that becomes animal feed. That would be another building that was located here, and that building is about 4 feet long. Now, to give you an idea of the width, this building originally, if you were to do it in the scale, would be about 12 inches wide, along with the main building. Both of them would be about 12 inches wide. The very end of the boiler house here has a assembly that it was actually built for crushing the lime and some of the other stuff and making the slurry that would be used to make the sugar. That building would have been of roughly 16 inches wide, and it's still part of that same 5 feet in length. So all that was attached together. So I had to decide what I was going to scratch build and what was going to create the effect and the look and still fit on the railroad. Because, you know, if I were to do the building in actual size, it would be from right about there to about here. And that's all I would be able to fit in here, because you'd have 12 inches coming across here. This is only 3 feet wide. So, you know, if I had 2 feet of it occupied by buildings, it's not going to work. So that's what we had to make a decision on, how we were going to scratch build these. So you can see some crude CAD drawings. These CAD drawings are basically nothing more than for when I have the brickwork, and I'm using Monster Model Works brick. I will be able to take these drawings, print them out one for one, stick them onto the brickwork, and cut out my windows exactly where they need to be. And then with photographs and all the calculations that I've done in a notebook, yeah, I have not much to do when I'm traveling and sitting in a hotel room. So guess what I do? I look at photos and do calculations of how big certain things are on a building so I can scratch build them. And in that notebook, I will then in turn take those calculations and I will actually scratch build these two buildings. Granted, consolidated and condensed, but nonetheless, they will look a lot like them. And if you look at the Facebook page, and I'm going to pop those photographs up here side by side so you can take a look at them, you can see that I've created at least the feel and the look of the two buildings that are there that I'm going to model. And so that's kind of where we went with that. So the reason for doing the mock-ups was so that I could figure out where the track had to go. Now, while we are going to take a break from laying track, we still have some track work to do. The ends of the yard are not done because I have to cut out these coal dumps right into here. They'll go below level. So they're not in place. We'll finish laying that track in here. And then these ends down here will actually get put in place. But I needed the mock-ups to kind of make the final decisions of what they're going to do. And so by having the mock-ups done and the drawings and everything attached to them, it allows me to see how does it feel. Is it going to work? Is it going to look? Can I get the operations to work? The other thing it allows me to do is to share it not only on Facebook so that you guys can see it if you want to, but also to get input from folks that are either at the site. In the case of George Booth, who's actually modeling the Great Western sugar mills and the railroad there, he gives me input of, hey, this is what they did, Mike. This is kind of, so it allows me to share and can collaborate with them to get exactly the operations I'm looking for. And I'm going to talk about something that George shared with me, and there's not enough room to do what George was suggesting. And if you take a look at last month's video, you'll notice that I posted the drawings and I showed you that the transfer yard, I kind of manipulated this a little bit to get it to fit into here. And then they would actually pull from the transfer yard over to the Great Western Sugar Mill yard, Railroad's yard, and they would then shuffle the beats through there. And it would work very similar to what a what container cars would do. So you know how container cars come into the yard, and they kind of break them away from the yard and they run them to the container area where they load all the containers. So they have big strings of them all ready to go to load up, so they're not having to move them all over the place. And then as they get filled, they push them back to the regular yard to get put on the trains to head in the directions they need to go. Well, the same thing occurred here. The Colorado Southern would bring the sugar beet cars to here, and then the Great Western would pick them out of here, put them in their yard where they could shuffle them in, empty them all out, and then as they got emptied, they would shove them back here for the transfer yard so that the Colorado Southern could pick them up and send them back to go get more sugar beets. And that's pretty much how a sugar beet campaign for the railroad would work. So we're going to go over a little of the operations of what we're doing and to kind of get you a feel of how things work. I'm going to move here just a second. And what I'm going to do is just kind of talk about things that we can at least share with. So I've got these mock-ups, and these are actually going to be pretty close to the size. I might shrink them a little narrower just a bit. I'm not too sure yet. Model's not built yet, and I have plenty of time to figure this out. But right here in this location that you see, where you might be able to read coal there and coal there, these are the two coal pits that the Great Western dropped the coal that they would use. So the cars would come in, and these two gondolas here and these two gondolas here basically helped me decide how long I wanted to make my sugar or my coal pits here. And what they did is they would use an American ditch digger crane with a clamshell bucket on it to basically empty these coal cars into their pits. Now they would take, there's going to be a coal dump into here that goes into the boiler. It'll be located right here, and this goes into the boiler house, and that's where they actually would take the coal to go in there. But they didn't get coal cars every day, and they didn't have coal continuously going into there. So they would store their coal into these pits, and then they'd use the clam bucket to pick it up out of there and bring it over to the dump to bring it into there. Or if they had a full car, they could actually bring it over here. But understand that if they're holding a car, they're basically might be paying rent on that car because they're using it for storage, and the railroad would charge them for it. So there's a reason why they would want to get rid of that car right away. So what will happen is we're going to get into operations here a little bit. Now the other thing is, this is where, so all the sugar processing occurs in these buildings into here. So the boiler would heat it, and they would actually heat the stuff up, and they would use lime, which is located back here, and we'll show that later on. They would also use the crane to empty a gondola of limestone, and they would have it located close to the processing house here, where they would actually crush it up and make it into a slurry that they would use to mix with the sugar to begin to make the sugar that they were using from the sugar beets. I'm sorry. So in any case, that's some of the exterior stuff you're going to see. So some of the things that will be coming into here is, obviously we'll have coal coming in for the coal pits. We'll have limestone coming in for the processing of the sugar, and then of course you're going to have sugar beets coming into here. You also have tank cars coming into here, and there are three products that they're going to be exporting out of here. These are molasses tanks. So after they get the sugar processed, they get two products. They get the sugar, the refined sugar, and then they'll end up with the molasses. The molasses gets used in two different products. They might use high quality molasses to be shipped off to be used for molasses. The other thing that it would be used for is they mix it with the sugar beet pulp, and that it becomes a animal feed. And so they would have you would have molasses, animal feed, and you would have refined sugar. This warehouse here is where they would send out the refined sugar. So this would be boxcars coming out of here. The molasses would go into tanks, into tank cars, specifically for molasses if they were shipping molasses out of here. And then they would probably use boxcars to take the pulp out of here, or the feed, I should say, because it's pulp mixed with molasses that becomes feed. And so that would also go out into in a boxcar that they would bag it up and feed it and box it out of there. So those are the products that it's making and shipping out of here. The products they're bringing in are sugar beets, coal, and lime. Dimaceous earth is another product they bring in. We're going to kind of let that one slide. It's not a large product that they would be bringing in, but it is a product they do bring in that they would have. So that kind of gives you an idea of what's going on. So we're going to make a shift here with the camera so you can see from a different angle and see what's going on. And then also I'll begin to touch into a little bit more of how the operations would work in this area with the consolidation and the compressing of the scene. So hold 1 second, we'll come back to you. Okay, so here we are. I'm not going to try and stay in the view of the camera here. I might pop in and out as time goes on, but we're more interested in this anyway. So here's what we're kind of looking at. So the idea here is that my local trains coming out of Denver are going to have about 20 cars in them. And so right now this is a 35 car yard. Now if you know anything about the rules of building a yard, if you have a 35 car yard, you cannot put 35 cars in it. Because if I had 35 cars in here, I'd have no way of moving anything around because the yard is full. So what I've got here is a yard that now currently has 21 cars in it. Again, remember the key to my locals was that they would have 20 cars in them. So this easily fits 20 cars in here, and you'll be able to shuffle them around. So I'm going to pull this back. So when the local train comes in, they're going to arrive into this track here. They're going to break some of the cars up. They're going to pull them into here, just like this would be the length of the cars that they're going to pull in here. And this length is, what have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 cars right here. So they're going to pull in with 11 cars in the locomotive. The locomotive is going to pull right down here, and I believe you can see the loco kind of coming, sliding backwards here through this runabout. So the locomotive's going to come in here, slide back past this runabout, and go all the way back down to here where he's going to have the rest of the train. I'm just going to push that train all the way back. There he is. Okay, so he's out of the way. So he's going to be able to pull all the way back into here, grab onto the cars here, pull them back up through this route right up through here. So you're going to pull them back out of here and up through that route and through back towards Longmont there. And then he's going to shove them into this first run right here. Then he's going to come back into here and he's going to grab his second set of cars. And this time he can shuffle either in the middle or in the side here, depending on how long his train is. If he's got a long train, he might have to come into here and then shuffle him back down into here so he keeps the middle yard open. The reason being, we're consolidating some of the operations. I don't feel that it's really worthwhile, although who knows what tomorrow is going to bring. But I'm not going to really try and model a separate locomotive to just run around and shuffle the Great Western. We're going to actually allow the local crew to use their locomotives that they have at this point in time to move their equipment around with the locomotives that they have. Now that doesn't say that tomorrow I don't decide that I'm going to build a Great Western steam locomotive or get a Great Western. They had a couple diesel locomotives by 59 that we might not have a couple in here to shuffle cars around. Doesn't matter. At this point in time, this is what the plan is. So they would actually come in here, and the reason why we want to keep this track open is because this is the wet hopper where they would actually take and bring in the sugar beets. So these, while I have all box cars here and I didn't grab a bunch of gondolas, all these cars might be hoppers and they're full of sugar beets. And they've got to take them over to this track here and dump the sugar beets into here, going into the wet hopper, loading the sugar beets into here that are going to go into the sugar mill. So what his operation is going to be is he's going to have to take and shuffle these two cars. He's going to come back to here, come down into here, pick them up, pull them back out of here, shuffle them into here, and basically then as he brings the empty ones out, he'll run them right back down the center. So he's beginning to form a row of empties. And he'll just pull the fulls out of here and put the empties into here. Pull the fulls out of here and put the empties into here. And just continue down until he empties that out. Now he might also have sitting in here some coal and some limestone. He'll also have to maybe pull those out, shuffle them out, and get them into the appropriate locations that they need to. Either the coal way back in the coal dumps into here, limestone located right here where this car is. Whoop, I just unrailed it. There you go. Or they might have to sit right back here where they've got to run these box cars all the way back and back to the warehouse to be loaded up with sugar. There are 4 freight doors on that warehouse, so they can put up to 4 cars back into their storing in that. They also will have, we're going to make part of our, because that originally was in 1903 when this building was built, this boiler house actually carried the pulp and the molasses all to make the animal feed. So we're going to use it just as that instead of having that separate building. By 1959, that separate building may have been built. I didn't spend the time to research because, frankly, I knew it couldn't fit on the layout. So in any case, that's what's going to happen there. Now, the additional cars that they'll have in here will be cars that they'll have to run up through this line, down through Longmont to bring them over to the cannery and to Longmont Foods. So that's what we have for operations in this area here. We'll have to take and shuffle these cars around here because these molasses tanks, and again, they'll be able to load them. I'm not going to try and load them from the yard over here. I'm going to have the loads into here so they can shuffle them around in the actual complex. And we're just going to use the yard for actually storing cars and shuffling cars around to get to where they need to go. So that's kind of what I have planned for operations here. The idea is that probably a two-man crew probably has a good hour worth of work here of shuffling cars between taking fulls, gathering empties, and then building a train to return to go back to Denver with empties and maybe some sugar and some feed and different things like that. So anyway, that's what we've got. In a minute here, we're going to take a break. I'm going to show you two new products and kind of talk about what those are and how they, what they are, and how they have really helped me out a lot. And I'm going to give kudos to one company in particular. And as hard as it is, I'm going to give a little bad review on one and another one in particular. But in any case, that's what we've been working on this month. One additional thing we were working on, I went to the Pacific Northwest first make and take clinic, and I enjoyed it an awful lot. This is a flat car that I made, or at least started, and it was a nice experience. I got a chance to go out and to do something I've never done. I've scratch built different things before, but I've never scratch built rolling stock. Really, I don't have a desire to, but it was a nice opportunity to do something different. And I wanted to at least experience it. And I happened to be doing a flat car, which with my crane, and was kind of like, I could use a flat car, and maybe I can custom build one or scratch build one, and I might still do it. It was a lot of fun doing it, and I had a lot of fun going out and doing that. So I'd recommend to anyone who is in the NMRA, this is a great opportunity, and if you're leadership in NMRA, this is exactly the type of stuff that modelers are looking for. Hey, I had a great time learning how to do this, and it was enjoyable. Just to be fair, and Jack didn't. Jack happened to be putting on the clinic. Jack never intended that I was going to walk away with a quality model that was, let's say, ready for grading or contest quality. But it did give me an opportunity in the 5 hours to put this together and kind of experiment a little with it and expand my skills. And I really enjoyed it. And so that was kind of fun doing that, and a nice experience. So, if you get an opportunity to do something like that, it was really very enjoyable. And I have to also, a little humbled, one of the members from my own division came up and thanked me for the videos and commented on it. And unfortunately, I was so intensely building my model, I kind of failed to ask his name, and I just want to say thank you. It means a lot to me if somebody comes up and says something. I do these because I want to and because I get asked a lot of questions. It means a lot to me when somebody I completely don't know comes up and thanks me. It's very humbling, and I appreciate it. Two other things I do want to share. I've had a lot of coping saws in my time, and I use these. This is a 10,000ths saw blade on here. I'm sure you cannot see this on the video. They're very small. And I've had an old coping saw I used forever and a day, and I misplaced it. And if you know anything, John harasses me all the time. When I misplace a hand tool or something like this, I get frustrated. I can't find it. I know I used it. I know I used it in the shop here not too long ago. Can't find it. And so normally what happens is after I can't find it after 4 days, I go out and I buy another one. And that's why John laughs, because I have probably 3 of every tool I ever need. But I never lose a tool that way. Well, I had only one coping saw, so I broke down and bought this. Now, this is not an inexpensive coping saw. This is really a very cool coping saw. And, I'd love to give credit to the company that makes this. Let me just see with it. It's called New Concepts. And this is a phenomenal coping saw. Old coping saws, the ones that are just a single bar that comes around here, you get flex in this thing. And normally when I cut with these 10,000ths thick saw blades, I can get through maybe 4 or 5 turnouts. So that's about 16 to 18 rails before I break one of these blades. And the reason why it breaks is because the centerpiece flexes when it catches something, and that's what causes the saw blade to break. I have done already 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 turnouts with this same blade, and it's still running strong. And the blade it gets much tighter. It's much easier to cut with. I find it to be an exceptional tool. I found it on Amazon. If you shop around a little bit, you're going to pay between $69 to $75 for one of these plus shipping. I actually got this on Amazon. I'm an Amazon Prime member. Surprising, I buy everything on Amazon. I got this free shipping sent to me for $69. Absolutely fantastic. Lighter than my other coping saw. I really loved it. So it's a high recommendation for that. You know, a good tool is worth sharing. So, and many of you know, I started a series on JMRI, setting up JMRI, and in the process, with my EZ-DCC, which has been my go-to DCC system for, well, since DCC started. I originally, as I shared in the video, I originally built my first command station using Keith's plans from Model Railroader. I'm very disappointed. I had to make a change, basically because of technical support from EZ-DCC. I knew what the problem was. I had sent the 2 command stations in earlier to be looked at, and I knew it was pretty sure that it was the RS-232 port that was creating the problem. Granted, to them, I'm just a model railroader, but I work with robots. I work with RS-232 ports. I'm familiar with them. I'm very familiar with serial ports. And I recognized that the serial port was recognizing that it was receiving a command, but it wasn't going no farther than that. And that means at some point in time, either a communication node on it is bad, or the port itself has got a short problem in it. I've seen it before, and I knew that was what the issue was. And I contacted them multiple times, and I just didn't seem to go anywhere. And I was frustrated. Well, I decided that I would do something. I happened to spend a little time talking with Jim Scorns from NCE, and I've talked to Jim over a couple years, and I really like Jim. And I, nothing against, nothing against NCE at all, but at the time when I was looking at DCC systems, I was already kind of involved with EZ-DCC, so I haven't made a change. If any of you know me, you know that I use everybody's products. I have Digitrax products already on my layout, so this is no surprising change. I went to NCE Command Station, and I want to give kudos to their tech support folks. They're absolutely fantastic. I contacted them and explained my situation to them, and I said, look, I know my RS-232 port's bad. I need a new command system, but I don't want to buy a whole brand new system because I have this huge layout, and I don't want to have to buy all new boosters and everything else under the sun to get this work. Can you guys help me? And lo and behold, they did. Absolutely fantastic. And I just, when I get good customer support, I think it's worth sharing with people. And customer support absolutely not only helped me decide, hey, look, I explained to him, I'm using JMRI. I don't need throttles because I'm going to be using Wi-Fi throttles. I basically just need a command station so I can get it to talk to JMRI, send a signal to my trains, and basically run it. That's all I needed to do. And they said, well, you can just get a base command station. So that's what I got. I got a powerhouse, just a regular powerhouse. And they gave me a circuit diagram of something I could build really easily to convert the cord that goes out to go to boosters onto this to actually speak to my easy DCC boosters. So currently, right now on my layout, I am using an NCE command station, easy DCC boosters, and local net for circuit breakers from Digitrax, and I'm also using a PR3 from Digitrax. So there you go. You can actually mix all these things together and get them to work. But I want to say kudos to NCE because frankly, I think they deserve credit. When you get good customer support and tech support helps you out with a problem and does a good job, that's worth mentioning. And so there you go. Thanks, Jim. And Jim didn't even know I called in. I just called in out of the blue because I was traveling somewhere. I sent a message to Jim. He was busy, so I just called the tech support. So Jim had no idea that I called them. Tech support had no idea who I was. I just want to just share with him saying, hey, as a customer now, I'm standing back and saying, hey, you want good tech support? A credit to NCE. Those folks are fantastic. So in any case, that's this month's video. We will be moving forward with this, hopefully in the next, well, I'll be fair with you. We've had a couple issues come up. Sean is returning back to see his mom. She lives in Maine, so he's going to be out for a while. John is very busy. I don't know when he's showing back up again, so it might just be Paul and me. But we'll be working on laying track. When Paul gets here, we'll probably do a little bit of that. We'll be working a little bit on the scratch building, divvying up some of the kits that need to be built so we can do the scenery on this. So might be a break for a while. I'm also getting ready to celebrate my 30th wedding anniversary, and I am taking a month off from work, from the layout. I'm treating my wife special. Kind of strange that way sometimes. But in any case, till next time when the video comes out, happy modeling and have yourself a great month.